Well, okay, we're still working on our Norwegian Sailing Pram, so this is going to be part 3. We started our planking in the last video. Kind of ran into a little problem with our planking, but it's not really a problem. It's just something that I didn't really foresee coming up, but I should have. And that's quite okay. We'll take a look at that. Now, what we've accomplished so far is we've got our bottom planking on. Which is good. Now we are going to have to make some adjustments. And I had to take a little bit of time and figure out what kind of adjustments to make. And I'm sure that they expected us to do these things. So let's jump down to the bench here and look at what I'm talking about here. So for those of you just joining us on this build, this is the second vessel in a 3-vessel shipwright series that we're doing by Model Expo. This is the Pram, and what we've managed to do so far, other than the building board, is get our transoms, the bow transoms and the stern transoms made, and we've faired those in. Well, not really faired, we beveled those in, and then we've installed our bottom planking. So we have our keel plank and our left and right bottom planks on. All that is good and fine, and we've trimmed those to fit our transoms there on both ends. So when we started to look at our planking, our garboard planks, which is the next planks to put on. We had to put a little rabbet on either end where it was going to interface with the transom, and then this is the beveling that we did in the first video, and it's nowhere close, as you can see there. So what I've done, as you can see, I did put me an index line here and make sure that they are equal distance, and then we're running a taper from the corner of the plank that is already installed, and we're going to change this dimension. What we're not changing is we're not changing the height of it. Okay, so that reference point is going to remain the same until we get ready to do the next plank. So each series of planks, so we're doing the garboards here. When we do the next 2 planks, we will change that angle again, which is kind of what I'm seeing that I'm going to have to do here. I've also done that on our bow transom. I've got this one marked off, which you can tell that we haven't done anything to that yet. This one right here has already been filed down so that we can accommodate the rabbet that's on our actual plank. Probably be good if I had the actual plank that goes there. Kind of show you what we're aiming for here. So once we make those adjustments, get it to the edge there so you can see how that fit is supposed to go together. I might be too close to the camera for focus. I'm sorry about that. I really hate watching videos where it's out of focus, so I apologize. So anyway, that's the goal. That's what we want to get to. So with that in mind, we're going to continue working on our pram here. I do want to make sure that I keep my rubber bands out of the way. So I've already filed down the, this would be the port side, and got those angles right. That way I could check the lay of the plank. There are a couple of more things that I need to do on this one side, and that is to make sure as the plank travels down, see, we kind of hit that support frame. So what we want is we want the plank to be able to come along this, the building board support there, and it has to make contact with the bevel that we sanded in order for us to be able to glue that up. And this one right here doesn't quite meet that. So what we're going to have to do there is we're going to have to kind of bevel that in, but we're not going to be changing these angles right here. Okay. Well, angles. This point. If we're going to make an adjustment, it'll be from that corner there, that little point, down or up, whichever way you want to go. So you kind of see my my perspective here. So we're going to just change that a little bit right there. Make sense? Like so. Just so that our plank will actually lay in. Because if it doesn't make contact, we're not going to get a good gluing surface there. So that's very important that we get that. And it doesn't need much. It just a little bit. So that's the idea there. So let's go ahead and start modifying. So I went ahead and made the adjustments here on these building board frames. So we're in good shape there. Now when it comes to the transoms, I'm using a rifle file here. It's got a slight bend to it, but that's okay because I can rest my hand on the bench like so, and I can adjust this bevel, being careful not to get into the plank there. And you don't have to use this type of file. You can use a straight file. You can use sandpaper or sanding boards that we've been using. But I did put the masking tape down. That's to me a mask tape as a guide, so that I'm not getting too carried away. So we're just correcting this angle. And that has not been very much sanding it or filing at all. And we're about halfway there. This goes quicker than you think it would, because this is basswood, and basswood is relatively soft. So close. Now when you get real close, it's time to do some fine tuning. So find our plank here. We want to check our engagement of how these parts are going to actually interact with one another. And you can see that you might be able to see there is a small gap at our rabbet there. If I can hold it. There we go. So I'm just going to close that gap up by taking just that little bit more off right there. And that'll fine tune that plank into fitting into our stern transom. And then we'll go up and we'll do the exact same thing on the bow transom. And you can see the difference between the one that's already been fitted and the one that needs to be fitted. So I know this is so exciting. It gets real exciting when I break things. So, all right, so I'm going to finish this up and then we'll take a look at it after I get it down to depth on both the stern and the bow there. Okay, so we have them both beveled in where we need them. And we don't need this tape anymore. That'll just kind of get in our way later. I'll take that off. So the next thing we need to do is soak our planks in warm water and for about 20 minutes so that we can form them and let them dry. So that's going to be the next step there. So I'm going to put these in water and we're going to let them soak up as much water as they can so that we can form them to the boat. Okay, so I said about 20 minutes. It's actually been about 40. So we are going to, they seem to have soaked up quite a bit of water, so, and we should be pretty pliable here. So let's see which side we are on. So this one's going to go over here. Need to get my rubber band set so I can get the plank into place here. I think we're going to need a little help here to keep the plank just like it is there. Let's, sorry I had to move out of the frame. Let's take a clamp and put on it there. Okay, we're in good shape there. So some creative clamping may be necessary. Get our plank around where it needs to go. Throw our other rubber band up on here. Like so. I think we're kind of in pretty good shape here. Now normally I overbend this, but I don't think I have quite enough give to do that. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm just going to clamp the edge there like so, and like so right there. I do see that we got a little problem with it sliding over here. Got to get up to your mark. If you can't stay on your mark, then the plank is not going to... Did I bump the camera? Sorry. All right, so we're down on the forms. I may need to do something there. that's basically what we need to do, I guess. So we got that one side going. Let's get the other side on, and then we're going to fine tune this. Kind of get it held into place here. Number one. Number two, we'll get it seated where it needs to go. Okay, so that one's kind of in. Now you don't have to work particularly fast because it's water and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Does help if you get it right where it's supposed to go. Okay. Generally speaking, I think we're in pretty good shape here. Now, I think the manual kind of refers to us doing this piecemeal. Do one first and then do the other side, and I kind of, when it comes to glue up, that's the way we're going to do it. But when it comes to drying our planks, I think we're going to just do it this way. So I do have a gap up here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to solve it without deforming the wood. Can I cross clamp and not deform the wood? No. Oops. I'll have to figure something else out there. All right. May have to put maybe I can just slide down here. Better solution. More better. Now, I know from previous experience that we're probably going to end up with dents where the clamps are, because this is wet wood, and we'll just have to deal with that later. We'll have to raise those dents, because if I can't get it to form, then I'm not going to be able to get it glued into place. Okay, kind of looks good there. We're gonna let that dry. And we can work on something else in the meantime. So, yeah, we do have it clamped up here pretty good. I just didn't want any puckers, you know, kind of coming in between the clamps there. So you're going to need a lot of clamps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I got 16 right here. So yeah, if you're going to do some shipbuilding, you need to have some clamps. Now, other than that, what I want to mention is that when it comes to centering up the boards, you do need to check, and I'm just checking from the corner here on the garboard plank and then the edge of our keel plank, and just find you a spot where you can reliably measure across. So we're about 8 millimeters there and 8 millimeters on the opposite side. So edge to edge between the two planks there, 8 millimeters. And you just want to measure down and make sure that you are consistent left to right. Doesn't have to be 8 millimeters all the way down, and obviously it's not going to be because it has a taper. But you just want to make sure that your planks are sitting equal. So they need to be equal there. And the other thing is to double check and make sure that you've got the little rabbets, the rebate edges, engaged correctly. And then the rest of it, we're just going to have to leave up to Mother Nature and let that dry. So what do you do while everything is drying before you can glue it up? Well, we got our garboard planks drying, so let's take a look at our second strake planks. We're going to repeat the process that we did on our garboard planks for our second strake planks, remembering to cut the gains in these planks. As before, bend them, let them dry thoroughly. Note that there is also a twist to these planks, particularly towards the ends. Apply the planks from bow to stern, section by section, again making sure that the boat does not bow up from the molds. Sometimes a little ingenuity is needed. Okay, use your imagination there. So, before we can even think about putting our second strake planks on, we need to make them. Well, actually, not make them, but prepare them. So our second plank is here. Going to have to cut these out from the frets. And we're going to use the same process on taking care of these as we did our garboard planks. We're going to remove the char on this one edge. We're going to bevel the other edge just like we did before. And then on the opposite edge of the bevel, we're going to mark out and do our rabbets. So we have two of these that we need to go ahead and take care of. So we can do that while everything's drying. Time to see how we did on our bending. So we have a lot of clamps to remove. Not going to lose our clamps yet because we're going to be using them again. As I expected, I do have some little divots in the plank because the plank was wet when we clamped it. But as we learned on our dory, we can actually raise those dents after we're done with our glue up, just by adding a little bit of water there and allowing the wood to expand. So there's really no other way to do that. They'll raise, I'm sure. I think they'll raise. All right. Get all of our little clamps off here. As we expected, a little bit of spring up there. Nothing that we can't deal with. Just recheck that everything is going to fall back where it's supposed to when we start our glue up. I guess that's going to be about as good as you can expect to get it. They do tell us that we need to, when we do our glue up, we're going to just start at one end. I'm going to glue mine up in thirds. Do have to pay particularly close attention here to the stern when we go to glue it up. Okay. Doesn't really matter which side you start with. We do want to keep the parts safe. We don't need to be smashing stuff up. Not now. All right. Let's see. I'm going to need some glue. Actually, before we do the glue, we need to attend to the bow transom a little bit. It has the habit of wanting to lift. So I'm gonna tape this down with some good painter's tape there, I think. Let me do that. There we go. We put our painter's tape on. I switched out my rubber band to one a little bit tauter because I used a little block again. Let me move this out of the way. That'll get in the way of our gluing up. So we're just going to be gluing from the bow transom to the brace on our form here, our building board. And when we do this, we need to make sure that the alignment is correct over the entire length as we clamp it. Otherwise, we can be out a little bit at the stern, and we don't want that. So, it's go time. So we're going to be using the same yellow wood glue. This first part of gluing up is the easiest. And I expect we will have some squeeze out, of course. I just let you know that you got enough glue to hold your joint together. I do want to minimize the squeeze out, of course, because I work a little slow. I think I got enough glue here to do that. That's one thing that I've been struggling with, is making sure that I have enough glue out of the bottle there to do the job. I don't like to waste glue, but you definitely don't want to end up with not enough and then the joint not secure. As they say, this is go time. So I am gluing, when I'm gluing it up, I'm using that laser cut line as my guide where we did the bevel on our bottom planks there. And we do need to line it up with the front extending just past the bow transom there. Now I need to line up my rabbet. Funny thing about the glue, it makes everything a little bit slippier. Slippier. Is that a word? Might be. Just going to clamp it back in the same place, I think, that we had it in the first place there. Not to lose our line. I think I need an extra clamp here. Yeah. Kind of hard to get your fingers in there. There we go. So I haven't figured out how I'm going to clamp our garboard plank yet. So before we keep going, we just want to make sure that our plank lays correctly. See, it doesn't quite want to go, so I had to force it a little bit there. I think going past the glue joint is a good idea. That way I don't knock things off later. And I need to come back and check that the plank is in the right spot. Yeah, okay. We're in the right spot there. And I will use a spring clamp up here to put added tension on our rubber band, just like so. Sort of. Yeah, that ought to be good. So now we can come and clean up this glue before it sets up on us. You can use a wet paintbrush to do this. I'm just scraping it off here using a toothpick. Toothpick on this side. Now we got to get the inside too. Checking to make sure we don't have any gaps. Get up underneath our rubber band there a little bit. We do have a plank that has to engage right there. And if we can see it or reach it, here we go. We need our pick here. Clean that up as much as I can reach. I don't even know if you guys can see what I'm doing. Sorry about the camera angle. I think it's about as good as I can hope for at the moment. We'll probably have to do some extensive cleanup on the inside because the inside of this boat is really going to be visible. So, all right, so we're going to have to set this aside and let this dry for a bit. I do want to check again. It might not be a bad idea to actually put a rubber band on the aft end of the plank there, putting it back in its original spot where it dried. Kind of keep things. Just want to make sure it's not lifting right there. And we want to make sure also that the bow transom doesn't lift while we're doing our clamping here. All right, so we're going to let that dry. And then we will continue on down and finish it off. All right, so I've given it about 20 or 30 minutes there. Now we're going to glue this section. So we need to free up the end of the board here, or plank. So I'm going to take this clamp off here because we glued up to this building board support. We're going to be gluing aft of that support to the next support. And when we do this, we are going to make sure that we get the plank back into position there on our rabbet that we cut in the garboard plank there, so that it meets up on our line like it's supposed to with the transom. We'll let that dry, and then we will continue and glue the rest of it. So let's see. One thing we need to do, we need to kind of space it up with a piece of wood here to kind of give us room to get our glue in. So I'm going to have to get in there. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. So I'm kind of getting glue on both the bottom plank and the garboard plank at the same time right there, which is okay. It's all right. And this is really dry wood, so you can expect it to soak up the moisture out of the glue quite readily. Now, I want to be careful to not glue it to our building board there. Get that out of the way. Just like so. Now I'm leaving the other clamps on because I've given it like 20 minutes to dry. So, oh, and I'm using this condiment cup here upside down, just kind of shield the glue so I don't stick my arm in it. And that's number one. Number two, it keeps it from drying out so fast. Now it won't keep overnight, but it should keep long enough for us to complete our glue up. So again, we're going to need some clamps. Put everything where we can reach it. I'm going to set the plank in place. I'm going to kind of hold it with my thumb where the rabbet overlaps the bottom plank there. And we can just start clamping the edge together there, just like we did when we put it, or clamped it up rather, so that it could dry and form in shape when it was wet. And again, we want to double check to make sure that we're still down against our building board there, which we are. So we're in good shape there. And I need to secure that into the plank. So that kind of wants to spring back a little bit, but that's okay. I mean, we'll clamp that when we go to glue it. And so the only thing left to do is to clean up this. So I'm going to clean this up. And then I'm going to wait another 20 minutes or so there. For that to set up for us. Then we can glue the last third of the plank in place. And don't forget, when you're doing this, you need to go inside. And I have no illusions whatsoever that I'm not getting all of it. But I don't want to be moving these clamps around. But we do have that little trick to clean up glue on the inside there. Which we're going to have that to do anyway, because as we progress down the side of the boat, it's going to get harder and harder to get in to clean up that interior seam. But such is the way of it. So we're going to let that dry, and then we'll finish it off. So what do you do while you're waiting for like the planks to dry when you're forming them because they're wet, or you're waiting for your glue up to dry so you can continue the next part? Well, there are other things that needs attention. Gonna have to skip over all the hull parts. Now, we could do this, the dagger board case. We can glue that up and get that ready for installation, because that is an assembly that goes onto the boat after the hull of the boat is, all the planking is done, I should say. Can't do anything with the knees or the braces or any of that. We could do our dagger board. So you can work on that. You could also work on your rudder, getting it ready. So there's a lot of things that you could do. The tiller. Might be too early to work on masts or something like that, or our stand. Now you can sand all the char off and prep the stand base, and you can also build up somewhere. I'm looking for what they call this. This is a what do they call this thing? Shaping the mast. Of course, we don't want to shape the mast quite yet, I don't think. I don't know that that would be a problem, but note the difference. The second method, using many clamps, glue this up. While this is drying, assemble the spar shaping jig. So this is the spar shaping jig right here. Excuse me. So they include the parts in the kit for this jig, to help you shape and taper your spar or your mast. You can put that together because that is a tool that you're going to be needing. And then later on they tell you how to use it. I did go ahead and make it up. As you can see right here, now I put a piece of painter's tape on it so that I don't lose the pieces in it there. And I actually used it to experiment on a square piece of wood. I don't even know what kind of wood this is. It was just some of that spare wood I had laying around. And it actually helps quite a bit. You got a stop block, so it's not sliding around on you. You also have a hook that you glue onto the bottom of it that hooks onto your bench so that you're shaving away from you or sanding away from you. So that works good. I put this painter's tape on because I did not glue the blocks in, the V blocks. Because I'm kind of thinking that what if I wanted to move this block, which is stuck to the tape, and do something really short. Probably best I just remove this. That blue tape really sticks. So you want to do something really short, you can put your stop block in up there. So I didn't glue my blocks in. Probably you could glue the last two in, no problem. I did glue this one up, so I kind of lied to you a little bit. Sorry about that. So just to give me a little bit more flexibility with the tool, and you can use this for different models. You don't have to use it just for this one. I mean, tools are tools. I will say, though, that for some reason, they had slots for the end block and 1, 2, 3, 4 V blocks that were in the kit. The fifth one I had to make myself. I just made it out of the same thickness that these other blocks came out of. I don't know why they only did 4. Maybe for this boat, the mast is not tall enough to worry about the fifth one. But then, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense to have that other slot if that's the case. So anyway, I just made another V block to hold the wood so that you can shape it. Now we'll get into using this later, but this is one of those things that you can do while you're waiting for stuff to dry. Oh, and other parts too, like the oars. We didn't get to those yet, but you could make your oars up. Those are separate assemblies from the rest of the boat. Okay, so I went ahead and glued up the last third of it there, just making sure that our rabbet was engaged and that we were on our little char line there that I did not sand out completely because I'm using that as my guide where the planks go, and that was for our bevel. So looks good. So yeah, I think we can unclamp everything now. Kind of see where we're at there. As you can see, you're going to use quite a few clamps. That is a very long seam to take care of there. Now you could just glue up this and then move those clamps on down. I just left them all on. But I think we're in good shape. It didn't pop off anyway, so. So it looks good. All right, so we're going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side to glue up the other garboard plank we got here. The only difference is going to be that as we glue this up, I will be checking the measurements just like we did when we did the wetting of the planks and letting them dry, measuring them at a specific distance from the bow or stern, and make sure that they are equal so that these spaces are the same all the way down. If we stay on the char line of our bevel, just like we did on the opposite side, it should be right, but it always pays to measure and double check and make sure that it is. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and glue up this other plank. It will glue up the same way. And then we will move on from there. All right, we have given this plenty of time to dry. This is our second garboard plank here. And it appears that we are in really good shape. Looks good. No gaps that I can tell. So, very nice. All right, let's see. Let's get rid of these clamps. Don't need those in our way anymore. We're gonna need our saw and this. So the next thing that we need to do is the same thing that we did with our floor or bottom planking, and that'll be to sand these down flush. Now I probably need to get this tape out of the way. Don't want to be sanding into the tape there. I'll just tuck it underneath there. We'll put it back on later. Kind of like an insurance policy to make sure that the planking doesn't cause the transom to bow up. So we will have to sand these down flat, just like we did the bottom planking. We're going to sand it to match the profile of the bow transom there. And it won't take much to get it there. So you don't need to see me sand, obviously. The other thing that we're going to do is the same thing with our stern transom here, where the garboard planks overlap the edge. We're going to come in, we're going to cut off the bulk of it there using our razor saw, and we'll sand it down flat, which is exactly what we did with the bottom planking and the keel plank there. So I will go ahead and do that in order to kind of speed things up here in the video. Of course, it'll take me several minutes to do this. So yeah, and then we'll just pick it up from there for fitting our garboard. No, I'm sorry. These are the garboard planks, the second strake planks, which we've already prepared. All right, I've got this cleaned up pretty much. Now, I haven't got it perfectly flat because we have two more planks either side to put on. So we will completely get it absolutely flush, but you can kind of see how the little rabbets are supposed to engage on the planking there. So that's actually looking really good. I mean, there's a small gap right there, but that's not that big of a deal. I'm actually really surprised that it's come out as well as it has. So, knowing me. So what we got to do now is we need to lay out our next cut line for fine-tuning where the plank is going to engage on both the bow and the stern transoms here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure it, see which one's low, or since the boat's upside down, it would be the one that's high. But we're going to go with whichever one is the lowest since we're upside down. So it kind of looks like 16.5 millimeters there. And this one on the opposite side, about 16, a little bit more than 16.5, I think. So the idea here is to mark that corner. Put me a line across there. Am I just about out of frame? Sorry about that. They're actually almost level with one another. That'll be good. So I need to mark where the corner of that plank is. So it appears that we don't have much there to take out, but we've got a lot on this other side. Now I don't know if this is just because of the laser cutting or my filing. Could be my filing. Could be the problem. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of yellow Tamiya tape there to kind of help me sight where I need to trim this. And it's not that much of an angle, but I'm getting into trouble here. Might be just the way I'm looking at it, I don't know. No, this one doesn't have much of an angle either. I'm not holding my mouth right, apparently. Yeah, I missed it. Okay, so anyway, that is the line that we're going to take, and we're going to file all that down. To correct this angle here so that we can actually have our interlocking. Now, we did this earlier up at top here, well, down below. Again, we're upside down. For our garboard planks so that they would engage the bottom planks. So we're going to have to do that again. Yeah, going to have to do that again. Also, we have the same thing going on here I think we're probably good here. It looks like we're good there. Yeah. When we come over to the opposite side though, you can see that this one might be close. That one's okay. That one right there, not so much. So we're going to take this line here. We're not going to change the location of the corner there, but we are going to change that angle so that our second strake lines up correctly. And when we come back here to the stern transom, this one's just about right. It just needs a little bit of adjustment. And this one here, really close, but it's going to need some adjustment too. You can see the plank where we need to overlap is right about there. So I will have to mark these, and yeah, we'll have to file those down. A lot of fun, but we need to make sure that our planks are able to actually engage. When we put those planks in, they need to be able to touch. They're not going to be able to touch too good right there. Otherwise, we're not going to get a good glue joint, and it will change the dimensions there of how it's all bowed in. So I'm going to fare these in where they need to go, pointing in the right directions. And yeah, we'll take a look at it then. So this is going to be interesting. I don't think we really have room to get clamps in there. I mean, we might have a little bit of room. I'll grab a couple of clamps just in case, but I don't think we're going to have too much room there. I mean, if we do have room, it'll be just. So we may have to come up with some clamping solutions here. All right, so I think we're ready for a plank. I don't know which one I got, but okay, it's the opposite side of where we're at. So we'll have to flip around here. So this plank may have a twist to it, they say. Also, it looks like we're going to have to figure out some rubber band issues here. I think maybe just rubber bands might be the best way to go. All right, we got to get it pulled up all the way where it needs to go. We will clamp our rubber band down again so that it's fully engaged that plank, keeping it wrapped down in the right spot. You may need to do pretty much the same thing towards the stern transom here. Like so. Don't really know. Can't really see my line. It's there somewhere. All right, so we can get clamps in there, right there anyway. Can I get a clamp in here without bowing things out? What I'm talking about is if the clamp takes and grounds itself against our building board, then we aren't going to get the shape that we want. What we're going to get is it a little splayed out. So we need to make sure that we're not making contact with the building board when we clamp these in. Because if they do, we'll be way off. That's first of all. I am having trouble keeping this plank fully engaged up here. I don't know if I can get a clamp in there. It's going to look like no. Yeah. Maybe I can get a corner in. Well, that's about it. That's what we got. This could be fun when it comes time to actually glue it into place there. I think our best bet is to go this route. It actually doesn't look bad. I'm kind of surprised. It would be nice if I could get a clamp right there. And another one right there. And I need some clamps down through here. Here and here, I guess. 2 more spots. How are we looking aft? Looking pretty good. So this is kind of like a a dry run, except it's wet. It's a wet dry run of how our clamps are going to have to be arranged when we go to glue up the second strake here. Yeah. The other thing is that we're going to have to let this dry before we can do the opposite side. Yeah. Because I don't want to disturb it by putting on the other plank on the other side and then everything move up here and causing us grief later on. I am having trouble right there. Don't know if I can support that with a clamp. Kind of get it from sliding off our mark. Kind of crushing the corner there a little bit. which I didn't want to do, but that's okay. We're going to sand that off anyway. Get my finger up under it. It just does not want to behave for us. Don't know if I can get back in there. Well, I guess that's just going to have to be it. That's all it wants to do. So that'll be it. And that is a problem, but I mean, it's nothing we can't take care of. So anyway, there are some dents where we clamped the garboard plank in. I'm just going to put some water on it while we're letting that other plank dry anyway. And that water should, as it dries, I mean, when it soaks into the plank, it's going to expand the fibers, and then when it dries, our dent should have raised. I already did the other side, but anyway, a little bit more can't hurt. So we're going to have to let that dry completely. Now I have went ahead and clamped up the other side and got it dry. So I had to do them one at a time because it just makes better sense. You don't want to disturb one and then have it dry in the wrong profile. So that's kind of important. And I think we've really got a nice fit. They don't pull away from the our building board supports there. So that's good. Of course, you know, you're going to have a lot of clamps doing this. And we're not going to worry about these little marks here. We can raise those. That's pretty easy. One thing, though, that I will point out, if I can get this rolled over where you can actually see it, we do have a mark right there on the upper stern transom, and you want your plank as close to that as possible. And I imagine once we get it actually glued up, we want to make sure that we kind of hit that mark. And you're going to want to do that on both sides. You also want to make sure that you kind of hit the mark when you do your drying. But little modifications can be made in order to get you there. While you're doing your glue up, you can also re-wet these if for some reason they want to bow out. They recommend doing that in the instruction manual. I haven't had to do that yet. I don't know how this is going to go. But the whole idea is to we're gonna glue this up the same way that we have all the other planks. The only difference being is, of course, we can't do but one at a time, and we're going to do them in thirds, making sure that once we seat at the bow transom and get that glued up, that we do lay the plank the entire length and hit our mark. That's very important. So you want to double check to make sure that everything is going the way it's supposed to. You don't want to get halfway glued down and come to find out that you can't hit your mark back here because you have an offset going on. So that's kind of important. So I am going to glue these up, and you've already seen me do that with the other planks on our hull here. So there's no sense in seeing the same thing over. So we're going to do that, and we're also going to prep the shear strake. And it's the same thing. The only difference in the shear strake is there is no bevel, because it'll be at the top, of course, and there's not going to be an adjoining plank to it. So we don't need to do the bevel on it, but we will have to do the little gains where we cut the little rabbets. We'll have to do that so that it is engaging properly where the strake is terminating. So, and of course, once we get these glued up, I'll have to trim these down. So trim them down, sand them. That way we've got a clear view and a complete understanding of how everything sets when we go to put it all back together. Okay, so what we're going to do here, I'm going to do some modifications, of course. What I've done is I've put a clamp right on that tick mark that I mentioned so that the plank can rest on it. And I'm not going past that when I do my glue up. And when I do that, you can kind of see, I hope. There we go. That our rabbet isn't quite deep enough. So it wants to push our plank past that mark. That's on the upper transom. Better. There we go. Yeah, so what I decided to do, because we need our shear strake to end up left and right at the same height. And of course, this plank right here, our second strake or plank, is going to kind of determine that. And by clamping onto the tick marks there, we've got a stop for us. Now, I didn't really want to do this when the plank was wet because it puts a dent in it, which I kind of got up here. That aside, though, now that it's formed, I can get it right on the line and get the rabbet lined up with the previous plank. However, there is a slight issue with it because the rabbets aren't quite the right size for me to hit all my marks there. So let me figure out how I'm going to do this. You probably can't see what I'm doing. I need to hold that right in place. And then we're going to come to the inside here with our pencil and we're going to mark it. And same thing at the stern transom. Just run a little mark there. Because I want to see how far off we are on our plank. For our rabbet there, that way it will actually engage properly. And you can see, now you have to take in some little bit of consideration for the width of your pencil lead. But we need to change the profile there a little bit on these. That one needs to be changed a lot. So that profile is going to be very different. But we want it to end up in the same place. I think right there. This way we don't have any binding on our previous plank there. So I am going to go ahead and modify both of my planks by putting them on the boat, marking them. I'll modify it And then I think I'll be ready to glue. As long as I'm happy with the joint where they interface with one another, that overlap. So then I'll be able to go ahead and glue this up. Because we don't want them extending above those tick marks on the rear transom there. So that's what we're going to do. Cross your fingers. Wish me luck. So we were successful with our rabbets. And I managed to glue up our second planking or second strake. And they are engaged nicely there at our rabbets. So that's all good there. Of course, this is going to have to be sanded down. I'll do that off camera. And then at our stern transom, we are fully engaged, as you can see there, with our rabbet. And we aren't past that tick mark. So that's set us up for our shear strake, for that to go on. And we should be in really good shape there. I do have to do a little bit of filing in the mold here because it may be holding off the shear strake from actually touching and having a good glue line there. So we're going to do this the same way that we did before, using that corner right there on our building board here as our angle of attack, more or less. I'm just going to fare that down or sand that down ever so slightly there, so it doesn't interfere with the plank. The plank's got something to rest against, but it doesn't keep the plank from making full contact there. I think we're probably okay right here. That seems to be fine right there. And the same thing on the opposite side. Now, we had to do this before, so it's no big surprise. That one may need just a little bit, maybe a little bit there. So that's no big deal. The other thing is we're going to have to make some small adjustments here so that the shear plank engages with the rabbet and does its little overlap there on our bevel. And same thing on the opposite side there. So, but we're in really good shape. So first thing first, we'll trim these down like we've done everything else. Then on our shear planks, now these do not need any beveling on the top edge because they're at the top. So there's no more planks to go above that. However, on the inside, on the bottom edge, we will do our little rabbets so that we get our interlocking feature going there, just like we've done on all the other planks. So once I get those cut, we're going to do the exact same thing. Going to soak them in water and then form them up and let them dry, and then we should be good to go to glue them in place. So that's a lot, I know. So I'm going to do the same thing that I've been doing. It seems to be working pretty good, and everything seems to be measuring out okay. So measuring, just trying to stay consistent here. We're about 14 millimeters from the edge of our second plank to the bottom of the previous plank there. Actually, it's, yeah, 14. And then right at 14 there on that side. So everything seems to be really even. So I think we're coming along fine. So let me get this all taken care of, and then we'll see what we have. So it does take a little bit of creative clamping here. As you can see, I use these blocks here to make sure that our plank is pressed up against our building board supports there, and that we are lined up as best as we can on the line on the previous plank there, where the bevel is. So one thing that I will say is that we need to probably do a little bit of trimming here to get that to seat all the way. It's just very, very minute. So I'm going, when we take this plank off, I'm going to take care of that. So it's important to let this dry fully before you start messing with it, of course. And it's going to have some spring back. That's okay. So I want to take this off and adjust that, and then it'll probably be ready for glue. Just remember, we need to form the plank on the opposite side. So we need to soak that in water. We need to form this one before gluing the other side, just in case we have to make some small adjustments there. Okay, so I just took the tape off. I've got these sanded down pretty much where it all needs to be. Just some fine sanding left to do. I'm really kind of anxious to get all these rubber bands off. So our shear plank's in place and it's all dried, and we've got it trimmed up. Now we see. Now let's see if we glued it down to the building board here. Apparently we didn't. Okay, so what kind of disaster do you think we're going to find on the inside? Not too bad. I'm really happy with that. So we do have some glue to clean up and some dents. I don't know if you can see them dents in there or not, but that's okay. The dents are easy to, that one might not be too easy. What we're gonna do is we'll just take some water, put that on any dent that we got here, let it soak up into this basswood. And I kind of knew we was going to have that from all the clamps that we had on, of course. And anywhere it's pinched, the thin part of those planks, we're going to have some indentations. So we'll just put some water on it there. Kind of help it all pop back up for us. Not as many as I thought there would be. Got some along here. So yeah, so the basswood is going to soak up this water. The fibers will expand in the process, and the dents should pop up. And with real soft woods, normally that's kind of what'll happen. So what I'm going to do, get plenty of water on it there. We'll do this first, and then later on I'll come back in with some isopropyl alcohol and clean up some of these glue spots where we didn't really get to it too good. Just a couple here and there, but looks so much better than what we ended up with our dory, our first build. So I guess we're learning as we go here. Now all of this is going to get painted, of course. So yeah, that looks pretty nice. Now the only thing I'm really concerned about is this right here. This cut line is well above our planks. So I don't know what I want to do with that. And it's far below on the front here. And you can see how I had to, in order to get these right on the front there, when I was reshaping it, that piece wasn't really symmetrical. Interesting. But I think it'll come out just fine. So we do have a bow end right here that I think we need to address too. I think if we just wet this, just on the inside, it'll start to expand maybe a little bit and straighten itself out. Maybe I should have put it on the outside. We'll put it on the outside too. I'm not worried about it popping loose and coming apart. I think we are glued together rather well. And if it does come apart, well, we'll just have to fix it. I'm sure there will be instances when things like that happen, and I'll have to do that. So might as well learn now, right? That's why we're building these, so that we can learn, so we can build bigger and bigger and bigger ships. I don't really like how this is bowed. I'll just put some water on him too. So after we get all of our cleanup done and everything, I'll come back and I'll sand all this down so it's all nice and smooth. Not too bad. We're looking pretty good. All right, so that will take us through step 11. And I've put it back on the building board here. With the rubber bands on it here, because I did put some water here where we had the rubber bands and stuff on it. When we had it kind of clamped in, it was kind of bowed in more than what I really wanted it to. So we're going to let that dry. But other than that, though, I mean, it's coming out pretty good. So we still yet have our skeg to do and our bilge keels, I believe is what they're called. And just on the outside of the hull here. Of course, it's going to need a nice even sanding, and we got that little bit of cleanup to do on the inside. I'll do that stuff and get it all taken care of so that we can just move on with the build in the next video. So that will do it for this part. Hope you enjoyed it. Special thanks to all my subscribers. It's because of you guys that I make these videos, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. And if you're new to the channel and you like what you see, I hope that you'll subscribe. So till I see you guys again on another Wednesday for Hillbilly Shipwright, you guys stay safe.